And I'm happy to pass the microphone off to Kim, who's going to be moderating this conversation, which will lead us naturally into the incredible work we're all going to do this afternoon. Here you go.
Thank you, Michelle, for that great warm-up. I mean, the after-lunch segment is always tough because, you got to whip the crowd up again and build that energy. Anyway, so what would eco-asset management look like in practice on the ground through a local government lens? That's what we're talking about. And I wanted to sort of flash back in order to look ahead. And a quick show of hands, how many people in this room actually have heard the name Ian McCarg and Design with Nature? A surprising number, Because it really is, interesting to look back because, I think it was 1967 he actually started writing the book Design with Nature. So a half a century later, eco-asset management is another call to action to design with nature. So thinking of what Bob said last night, if you look at that quote from Ian, the shaping of land for human use ought to be based on an understanding of natural process. But how about the last part? Let us green the earth, restore the earth, heal the earth. So Ian McCarg has had a tremendous influence on people. And while he's most famous for design with nature as a landscape architect, he also is considered to be the father of GIS because he introduced the layered approach. So half a century ago, so it's back to the future. So in terms of, what would it look like in practice through a local government lens, obviously in the next few minutes we're not going to be able to show you the great details. Rather, what we're trying to do is just quickly build on the morning keynote and prime you for the concurrent workshops and introduce the two eco-asset initiatives. And so in that sense, when we get to that part, behind the stage, behind the magic curtain, I'm going to be calling on Jim Dumont and Michelle Molnar. Now actually, Michelle will talk first, just so we make that clear. So those of you who were here last night, you will remember Michelle from the Suzuki Foundation, and then Jim Dumont is the Engineering Applications Authority for the Partnership for Water Sustainability. So they're going to introduce you to the two initiatives that are underway in this province right now, and then we're going to experiment. We're going to engage you in a conversation. So when Jim finishes, I'm going to run down with the microphone and I'm going to come out there into the crowd and we're going to pose a couple of questions to get the conversation going, just to get you going and energized in preparation for the sessions that will be later on. And then I'm going to run back up on stage and provide you with a closing reality check. It's a busy slide, right? I just want to convey a couple of key concepts. So managing by the numbers, I used the soundbite this morning to say, for the past decade, thought leaders have encouraged practitioners to think like a system rather than like an accountant. And I'm pleased to report that David Allen is in the room right now because I did acknowledge you previously, David, and I'm going to show your face again. Right? But just to kind of give you, everyone here, a bit of a sense in terms of as we get practical, you've heard Manny refer to PSAB, the Public Sector Accounting Board, and you've heard the words asset management. But just to kind of give you a context, if a simple way of maybe of giving you something to remember about PSAB is that it assumes that the asset value drops to zero after 40 years. So that's the accounts, right? There's no value after 40 years. Asset management is recognizing that the asset actually can't have value after 40 years. So that's a huge shift. But really where we're at now in British Columbia is moving in the direction of sustainable service delivery. And David, this morning I did reference and recognize this table in terms of having now you at the same table as Wally and what you're trying to accomplish with sustainable service delivery. Focus on the service, not the asset, right? And the community determines what the services are important, the level of service that is desired, and how to deliver it sustainably. And then that leads into, as a subset, sustainable watershed system. So again, it's new ways of thinking, it's valuing ecological services, it's thinking like a whole system. I'm repeating this slide from this morning just to drive it home in terms of the sustainable service delivery wheel and how we are trying to move the whole process along this continuum, get your core assets sorted away, and that'll leave you ready to tackle the watershed assets. Again, it's important to recognize that we're all on this journey, And this journey just didn't start yesterday. This journey has a 20-year history in terms of, you think about McCart's quotes from 1967. What was really significant, if you read the preface he wrote to the 1992 edition, so he reflected on the changes that had taken place in North America over that first 25-year period, and they were transformational in terms of what, conditions in the 60s. So if we look back, yeah, we're doing a lot better and we made progress, but if you look ahead, we still have a long way to go, but the trend line is good. So I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the notable milestones over these last 20 years, again, reflecting from a perspective of what we have been doing in British Columbia, and the significance in 1998 of actually getting the East Clayton Sustainable Community going in Surrey, how that made a difference. By 2000, getting University, because of the scale of those initiatives, it allowed us to change the way people thought, to look at drainage differently, and to look at communities differently. And that's 20 years ago. And by 2003, we had formed the Green Infrastructure Partnership, and that began to drive a lot of what we were doing in terms of outreach and education. And 2006 was the launch of CAVI, Convening for Action on Vancouver Island, and back then by 2007, the Green Infrastructure Guide was published, and Susan Rutherford of West Coast Environmental Law was key to that. And then, in terms of this valley, the Nature Without Borders in 2007 is significant. So it merits recognition as one of the milestones on the pathway that we're on to a greener, better future. Living Water Smart in 2008 in terms of that policy framework at the highest level, that's Gordon Campbell's personal legacy, because he got it on a personal basis. He got it about water and what we needed to do. And he got, to give him all credit, he got the policy framework in place that we're now working out the details and implementing. And I must highlight 2014 in terms of what Manny Machado did in the town of Gibsons, because Manny, it hasn't been stated specifically enough today that in 2014, the mere fact that you got, first of all, your accountants to write a statement which you can put in the municipality's financial statement, and that council got it. I mean, that's a huge precedent, because the significance of what Manny did, that's essentially what helped, in a sense, to open the floodgates. And then in 2015, of course, I mentioned this morning in the keynote about the branding. What we're doing now is we're moving towards sustainable watershed systems through asset management. So, we are on target for making things happen. So the latest milestones then in this green infrastructure journey to post 2015 then focus on the services provided by nature. That's significant. And you have the Municipal Natural Asset Initiative, which Manny has mentioned several times. Sponsoring projects, you identified those to illustrate strategies to value natural assets and influence policy. And then with the Ecological Accounting Protocol Initiative, being undertaken through the partnership, through case studies, a tool to help practitioners calculate the opportunity cost. And that's a kind of a key phrase, right? The opportunity cost of drainage infrastructure, which really means making your decisions differently. So the quick comparison before I hand off, as they work out their opening moments here, is this quick comparison really of two initiatives. They have the potential to achieve complementary outcomes, albeit at a different scale. And so I think if there's one thing you should take away from Manny's presentation, which again is the importance of establishing a precedent, think back to this morning, one of my first slides when I said the Made in BC process, the what, so what, now what. And what did I say under now what? We've got to establish the precedent, because if you establish the precedent, and there can be many precedents, right? There's no one size fits all. That's the key to the British Columbia approach. See at Courtney, you're establishing a precedent, right? So we learn from these precedents. So coming back to a quick comparison of the MNAI and the EAP. We love acronyms, right? So, I think what Manny and being on the road is accomplishing is getting communities to think about eco-assets at the policy level. And that's a fundamental start, because once you got the policies in place, then you can begin to work with the players in the trenches to measure what matters, right? So that's what I meant by the complementary scales. So in terms of the primary audience, with M&AI, target the policymakers and obviously local government staff. With EAP, it's the practitioners, whether they be local government, business or nonprofit. The purpose, the purpose of M&AI, demonstrate local government recognition of natural capital using engineer replacement values. Get a fundamental shift in thinking in a very short period of time. And on the EAP side, demonstrating how to implement step 3. So remember that a moment ago, that the David Allen slide? Just think David Allen whenever I say step 3, right? How to get to step 3 on the asset management continuum by developing the means to measure work and capture prices. Objective, on M&AI, influence policy by demonstrating local government commitment. EAP, achieve optimum infrastructure outcomes. Jim Dumont will elaborate the relationship to sustainable watershed systems with M&AI, establishing those examples of values established for natural assets in demonstration cases. On the other side, opportunity cost evaluation. So with that warm up, come on up on stage. First, Michelle. There you go.